Hello. What we want to talk to you today in this segment, we're going to kind of keep it brief, is some additional subphylas that we've developed over the years on stalkers. We have different names for them. Of course, you know the primary ones, which are stranger stalker, intimate partner, domestic violence, and acquaintance stalker. But we break stalkers down even further than that, depending on the topic at hand. So we're going to cover about four of them today for you. And the first one is, and by the way, if you have a copy of the book, you can. This is all in chapter 2, and you can start looking back on that. And after you've researched this particular segment or reviewed this particular segment. Now, the first one we want to talk to you about is the Triangle Stalker. Now, we've discussed that. That was we had a situation where we have a celebrity stalking where Catherine Zeta-Jones is actually the target of the stalker, the female stalker in this case, who wants to eliminate her from the picture and go after Michael Douglas. So you have a triangle scenario, and that was kind of the same thing with Sandra Bullock on one of the situations that I worked on, the Sunset Beach case. Was assisting the department that was handling that case because Jesse James was in the way of her getting to Sandra Bullock. So what you have is you have the stalker at one corner of the triangle, the person that they're trying to get rid of, and at the top of the triangle is their goal, whoever that is. Now we have the same thing that occurs in non-celebrity cases. One that I'll just give you a brief analysis of. We had an individual who was quite wealthy, was dating, had a long-term dating relationship with a secretary that worked in the aerospace industry. She was very attractive. She reminded you of a Las Vegas dancer, and one of the show dances and things of that nature. She was also very intelligent, but she didn't like getting beat up by this guy. And so she started dating one of her co-workers who was an engineer involved in the aerospace industry, and he was in a sensitive area in the aerospace industry that he worked in. The millionaire did not like this, even though they broke up. He wanted her back, as oftentimes happens in domestic violence, because when we researched him backwards, we found out that she was a very strong mother influence in his mother had died, and she'd taken over the responsibility basically of being his mother. She helped him with any project or any problem that he had besides being his girlfriend, and he missed that, so he wanted to get her back in his life. So what he did is he began stalking the engineer. He would go to his house, watch him, take photographs of his car, the outside of his residence, etc., and he would steal his mail. He would steal, which had his paychecks in it and contracts from other organizations he was dealing with, and then he would contact his place of work. Somehow he was able to get his email address, and he would send all kinds of pornography to him, but most of the pornography was gay in nature, and either way, I'm not trying to castigate anybody in regards to this, but that's what it was. It was gay in nature, and or it was things that he shouldn't be getting, especially not on his business email. And security contacted him and said that this had to stop. So there was issues. He even drove to his place of business and tried to contact him that way, but security turned him away as well. And we also got involved with this particular aerospace security and explained everything to them, so they were up to speed. Generated a photograph of this individual, etc. But how I got involved is that the individual actually broke into the victim's house when his estranged girlfriend was in the house. She fled out the front door. This guy came in the back, and unfortunately, the poor guy was still there by himself. And the stalker, was a big guy, beat the holy heck out of him and smashed his face into a glass table, on, and he generated some pretty good injuries from that. That's how I got involved. During the course of our investigation, we did a search warrant on his house, and you always want to do a search warrant because you never know what you're going to find. We found all of his stolen mail. We also found books on how to terrorize people, how to stalk them, how to get revenge. We also found an entire custom-made marijuana grow. So he was arrested for felonies on that. We found unregistered assault weapons, numerous cases of ammunition, on and on and on. So, and we also found other drugs and paraphernalia. So he was arrested on multiple felony counts. He tried to make bail without having a DA present. We got wind of it from our court liaison, and we nailed him in that courtroom environment. He got no bail initially, and then he had to wear an ankle device after we were done with him until the trial. He hired 3 separate attorneys. They couldn't get him off. He was convicted, never been arrested before, convicted on and pled guilty to multiple felony counts prior to trial, and enough felony counts so that if he ever violates or does another felony, he's looking at life without the possibility of parole, and he's never been arrested before in his life. Now, so that's an example of a triangle stalking. Another type of stalking is what we call predator stalking. Now, we oftentimes see this when we have someone who ends up killing their victim. They don't necessarily have a relationship with the individual that they're stalking, but they follow them and then end up killing them. Now, sometimes this is a murder for hire. They actually stalk, go after, search, research them, and everything else. Other times it's a situation that we have like a pedophile, and unfortunately there are times when a pedophile is going after a child and the child has no knowledge that the pedophile is actually researching him. We had a scenario where we were contacted by another law enforcement agency that asked us if we felt this was a stalking case. What it was is they had contacted a pedophile on a search warrant and found several logs about one specific child on all the things he was going to do to that child, but he had to figure out some way of killing him and disposing of the body. Now, that child had never been contacted by the stalker, so therefore it could not be classified as a stalking. But what he had done is in parks and stuff where this child was playing, he had walked up to the child and brushed up against him and things of that nature and taken photographs of him. And the child had no knowledge. He didn't know. He just thought he was bumped into. So he was eventually convicted on other counts of molestation, but we still couldn't get a stalking charge on him. We're going to talk about the stalker that doesn't let people know that they're actually stalking them. We call them silent stalkers now. It's a new classification we've come up with. One of those is the Christina Grimmie case, and that's tragic, and we'll discuss that later. So that's a predator type stalker. Serial killers sometimes will stalk their people before they kill them, and the people don't know they're being stalked, and they're predatory. Okay. Third party stalking. Now, third party stalking, it happens. We have stalkers that will pay somebody to follow, harass another individual, to damage their vehicles, to enter their house and gather things, or they work in concert with that individual to assist them. I get a lot of stuff on my website about people that believe they're being gang stalked, and that's a tough one because some of that can be classified as third-party stalking, where you have a family that perhaps will assist another family in harassment and actual stalking behavior and that type of thing. But a lot of times I get people calling me and saying, yeah, they were in airplanes over my head last night, and they're in this house, and they're in this car, and they're gang stalking me. Well, to this date, and it could happen, but to this date, I've never actually worked a gang stalking like that. Many of the people that feel that they're being gang stalked are having issues of their own, and they need to seek treatment. And I try to explain that to them. Most of the time it doesn't work, but I still get that kind of thing. And then there's the retribution or revenge stalker, and that's the last one we're going to discuss today. And the retribution or revenge stalker, oftentimes you'll see these in workplace violence scenarios. And that's why it's important, and we train people to generate workplace violence teams within their organization. It doesn't really make any difference how small your business is. You can have some type of a threat assessment unit or a workplace violence team within your organization. We discuss that in the book as well, to some great degree. But what it is say there's somebody in your workplace that they don't get along with you at all, and they're very upset with you, and they end up stalking you, checking your, getting inside your email, your servers, and nowadays that's very common. They get your memos, they follow you home, they know what you do, etc., etc. And unfortunately, if you don't have a workplace violence team, oftentimes what happens is they end up back at the workplace and they can commit homicide, multiple homicides. It used to be called going postal. You've heard that. So this is something that we look at, and it's not good. So it's a retribution or revenge type stalking. Somebody that's upset with you for something they feel that you've done, whether you have or not, and they begin stalking you to cause you a great deal of pain and discourse. Right, so does everybody understand those four? Good, I hope so. If not, you can refer back, if you've got the book, refer back to chapter 2 and review those. And we'll talk about some more in the next segment. All right, thanks, bye.